Adventures in Penguin Sitting, a Tom and Jerry page-chasing adventure. One lazy afternoon, Jerry sat in front of his tiny TV as a cooking show chef celebrated Jerry's favorite cheese. Mozzarella, 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 he cheered. Even the way it rolls off your tongue is delicious. Mozzarella! Ah, the aroma of Rome. But Jerry's wonderful thoughts of mozzarella ended sharply as an announcer broke into the broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just received word that a very dangerous penguin has escaped from the city zoo. He is considered cute and extremely hungry. Shut your windows, lock your doors, and most of all, hide your refrigerator. Oh no! Jerry hurried into the living room. He closed the window, but as he struggled to lock the front door, the doorbell rang and the door flew open, knocking him to the floor. He looked up and saw, outlined in the doorway, the shape of a very menacing penguin. Jerry hid in an umbrella. When he finally got the courage to peek, he saw nothing but a cute little penguin. Nothing dangerous here, Jerry thought. The hungry penguin cheeped wildly and pointed at his mouth. Before Jerry could explain that he didn't have any food, the penguin spotted the refrigerator and dashed to it. He went right past Tom, who was savoring the last of his milk. Activity: find 8 ice pops hidden around the scene. The little penguin threw open the freezer door, grabbed an armful of ice, and waddled off. Tom snatched the penguin from atop a hill of ice cubes and was about to teach him a lesson, but the penguin gulped down a cherry ice pop and burped it into Tom's face, leaving him with a frozen red headpiece. Jerry rushed to the penguin's rescue, while Tom slipped on the icy floor and crashed face first into the pile of frozen goodies. "Thomas? What's going on down there?" hollered the lady of the house. "Uh-oh, guess who's going to get the blame?" Tom hurried to put away the ice pops, but was caught in a mess. "Thomas, what are you doing in the freezer?" Tom smiled meekly as he shut the freezer door. "This better be cleaned up by the time I get back," she scolded. Tom nodded, accepting the mop she shoved into his paws. Tom looked at the mop, then at the mess, and shuddered at the job ahead of him. Jerry was delighted at Tom getting into trouble. Until he noticed that the penguin was heading back to the freezer, Jerry gave him a scold and had him wait while he went back to get more ice pops. As Tom cleaned, Jerry quietly opened the freezer door and lifted a grape ice pop from the tray, keeping a close eye over his shoulder. He turned and ran straight into Tom's frowning face. "Oops," Jerry smiled sheepishly and waved. Jerry did his best to scatter, but didn't notice he was running on the thermostat. Down, down, down went the temperature in the freezer. A growing cold front spread through the house. Jerry got enough traction to launch himself into the living room with a furious Tom fast behind. Jerry squeezed the little penguin into his mouse hole just as Tom caught up to them. Slam! Tom's head was no match for the wall. Activity: can you find 5 hidden blocks of cheese? Whew, Jerry thought, clutching the last of the grape ice pops. The penguin chomped it down in one bite and rubbed his tummy as he felt a burp forming. Tom peeked into the hole. Blap! Tom got another sticky hairdo, this one purple. Tom puffed out an icy breath. Now that was cold. In fact, everything seemed cold. The haywire freezer had turned the entire house into a winter playground. Yikes! 6 inches of snow blanketed the living room, with ice on the curtains, lamps, and chandeliers. As the penguin bolted from Jerry's mouse hole, Tom went after him. Activity: find 5 things that don't belong in this scene. But Tom didn't get far. The carpet was now covered in a sheet of ice, and he ran in place like a dog on a waxed floor. He slipped and took in a mouthful of freezing cold air. Tom tried to growl, but found his mouth full of icicles. Meanwhile, the happy penguin lounged in the freezer, enjoying a variety of ice pops. Jerry grabbed one away and motioned for the penguin to follow him. Oh no! Tom was right behind him, but he couldn't stop on the icy floor. Luckily, a snowbank in the dining room stopped him. Activity. Can you find the two halves that do not connect? Jerry was leading the hungry penguin away with the last of the treats. But Santa Cat grabbed the little penguin and plugged a cork in his beak to quiet him. Think fast, Jerry! Jerry grabbed a heavy skillet and brought it down on Tom's foot. The pain sent him straight to the ceiling. As Tom landed, Jerry gave him a smack on the bottom with the frying pan, sending him into the freezer. That's quick thinking. The freezer shook as Tom shivered his way up and into the ice maker, which spit him out in little cubes. The chase was on. Jerry and the penguin scooted across the snowy floor. Tom shot after them using 2 pancake flippers for skis. Faster and faster Tom raced, losing control, flying right past them, and crashing into the mouth of a stuffed moose. Crash! Ouch! What could be worse? Just then, the front door opened. Activity. One of the paths in the snow leads to the refrigerator. Can you show Tom the right path to take? Oh, Thomas! All this mess for an ice pop? The lady of the house cried. At the front door, the little penguin squeaked with delight as Jerry pulled him away. Jerry and the little penguin shook hands as they stood in front of the penguin display at the city zoo. It had been a crazy day, and they both had fun getting Tom into trouble. The penguin hopped over the fence and swam back to the other penguins as Jerry waved goodbye. Jerry was resting on his little bed, watching The World of Cheese, when the doorbell rang. Jerry wasn't expecting anyone. When he opened the door, he saw that the whole yard was full of penguins that had heard about the best place in town for ice pops. You would think Jerry would be happy to have so many guests. Instead, he fainted. It's a race to the zoo. Each player rolls 1 die and skates over the ice cubes. The first one to the zoo wins.